Her hands are bound behind her candidate, who found the perfect hill on which to lay it down for good. Who she might not agree with on apartheid or celebrating war crimes, but talks just like she could. He's got the IDF's back and the CIA's back like a Democrat should. Mr. Anti-Establishment didn't start the fire, but he's slipping on his hood. Her voice is grafted to a candidate who might not always speak for her, but what is she to say? Why bother harping on an issue that Americans won't listen to? It seems like such a waste. But what activism is saying they don't give a shit, but if I don't, why would they? So way to rob yourself of agency, then chain yourself to genocide and look the other way. I love to see a fellow running as a Democrat, taking stacks of money from a GOP super PAC, calling out corruption in the giant fucking country club he's clearly been accepted at, but wants to be the leader of. He knows which way the money runs, knows it paves a leader's path, and human rights for Palestine historically don't lead to that. So he will not address it, as he doesn't see a need for that. And welcome to the attitude our country's politicians have displayed toward Palestinians since back before they cracked the will of Arafat. And so the story goes forever after. We do not speak the P word here or recognize the Nakba. All you'll find are sea lions who volunteered as actors, barking like a manuscript from NAFTA. All you'll find are insulated sycophants intent on justifying why the slaughter done in Palestine is not a voting matter. Tell that to Shireen Abu Akleh. Tell that to the children growing up inside a city where the walls are made of shackles. Tell that to a mother who is burying her baby, how her son is not our problem because we'll never see his grave. He's just a topic we can mute, or we can scroll right past his face and all the videos of mourners being beaten at his wake. So stuff your poll on what the average voter sees as urgent. They don't get to know the half of what we use as our detergent when we launder all our ISIS cells, our cartels and insurgents. We do not elect the man behind the curtain. We elect the pull string diversion. We elect the lesser evil donors pre-selected best to do unto the Arabs as we did unto the Persians, and do unto the Muslims as instructed by the merchant who provided you with HIMARS that can vaporize a person. Back into the dust in which we all will find immersion. One arms dealer's Jenin is another dealer's Kherson. Both are just a mark that Lockheed Martin smells a purse on. And voters are the hollow thralls that Congress put a curse on to vote against their interests every 4 years till they die. And if you show them Palestine, cry better them than I. Though the curse of occupation's taken place within their mind, they will always love their prison, long as they are shown the sky. They will sing about their freedoms under Apple's watchful eye, as puppets dance and sing should you so pull their strings and wires. And they'll rally round the man who bears a torch and bears it high, and believe him when he tells them that he's here to stop the fire. We're cursed to love our prison and keep lifting up our liars. We are not behind the wheel, we're being crushed beneath the tires. And our blood is in the oil, and the plastic on the wipers, and our blood is on the hands of those who cranked inflation higher. And blood is on a vest where press can barely be deciphered, put there by a few Israeli snipers who were aiming at the center mass of truth about American desires. That you can sell us any story. We're a nation built of buyers, and we love a good parade. It always makes us feel inspired, like who cares that those were Nazis? Gosh, they had the whitest smiles. So I wouldn't bank on sequels to the Nuremberg trials. If they happened now, they would be confidential Pfizer style. Redacted paragraphs and empty vials, close to 80 years before they share their files. Well, luckily, your lesser evil logic lets you justify the nations we've defiled. Lesser evil logic lets you cast a vote for someone that you know is truly vile. Lesser evil logic sees another million bodies thrown upon its hoarder's pile, extending out for miles. So every line I've had to scrap, I've turned back into bile. So don't you touch that dial, lest the feds come swarm your door. Guess it isn't safe to say things like I don't support the war, or may Palestine know freedom from the Jordan to its shores, or I'd love to see our senators get trampled by the poor. Any pull-string dem will tell what they're allowed to stand up for, and how little things like Palestine are better off ignored. You can call it voter outreach for some desperate remoras when the shark from which they get their scraps starts pulling on the floor. And the shark says those who live beneath a brutal occupation should be thankful for their freedoms and their rubble and their gore. And I swear it only makes those bottom feeders love him more. One in particular is beaming for her candidate who found the perfect hill on which to make his final stand. And she will not be deterred by all those pesky little war crimes, will not be deterred by his support for stolen land. He helps her come to terms with how to spin an occupation, and forgiving the oppressor is the democratic way. She says her voice is grafted to the candidate who speaks for her, and every time you pull her string, she's nothing new to say.
Anybody who's deliberately targeting civilians, they should be prosecuted and they should be jailed and the key should be thrown away. But, I don't see any proof of that.
He really does believe this, guys, to his soul.
Trigger warning, working class solidarity. I saw two people talking at the protest in the park, both from different ends of the spectrum of belief. At least that's how their conversation starts. But soon the liberal resistor might discover they got lots of things in common with their unvaxxed right-leaning counterpart. Just maybe not the swelling in the walls that surround their hearts. Fuck. The trigger warning for dystopian and dark is just that little bird you see when you embark. When you submit your body to the tidal pull of Twitter's frigid oceans, where everything you see evokes a negative emotion. So if it's hard for you to have to view the dark and the dystopian, well, little buckaroo, I'm not some shrine designed for you to find some hope within. If every day we open up our eyes is like an overdose, I don't intend to sugarcoat my opiates. If dystopian and dark is on the menu, honey, so be it. I take my rich rare like I take my kitsch Soviet. My army swells its ranks with those regarded as the lowliest, and we intend to dine upon the holiest. And if my little tweets are hard to stomach, kitten better buckle up, the ugly dial just got cranked from moderate to copious. So please consider this your trigger warning, that my every word is purposefully odious, deliberately chosen, that it swerves a little viper curve and chokes you in the Mobius. You didn't want to hear it, so I had to go and dress it up melodious. Fascism is not something you vote against. Fascism's a slow descent. Fascism was crafting scripts for use on local news a fucking decade long before you ever noticed it. Fascism is not your neighbor's Trump or bumper sticker made to match his trucker hat. It's the vat of oil you and he are boiling in. Trigger warning, ugly fucking future. Soon your useless brand of radically flaccid centrist views will have us staring down a feeding tube that serves a very soylent sin, where all your friends are zombies sharing dead-eyed pics of soylent grins. The trigger warning for the dark and the dystopian is Congress's collective mouth hideously opening, swallowing the working class and comment section nobodies. Those of you who'd pick apart the movement cause you caught a whiff of chauvin. As hopeless as I fear I'm gonna grow to be, there's bound to be some hope in me, that we could cease the friendly fire long enough to set the scene. We could stop the little factions eating off of one another long enough to catch the kind of meat that makes our meager spread the richest feast. I guess I should have put a trigger warning, working class unity. Something less akin to peaceful protest, more to mutiny. I do not submit my written word to hear your scrutiny. So if you want the censored version, it's unlocked by muting me.
You know, sir, I like you much better with my glasses off.
I guess I was born with the curse of foresight. Cause I knew Joe was only gonna represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You could keep the or flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow of the fascists have cast is on your doorstep and the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight. While up in the sky, a blimp glides by with a sign like New Year's 2022. Brought to you jointly by Pfizer and Coors Light. While the centrists observe from a comfortable courtside, right in the thick of the action behind a partition. We're in a morbid position, a plague of evictions, born a comorbid condition of the cancer of wealth. I fantasize that I cancel myself, hands on your head, throw your best laid plans in the well. There are no more answers, questions go back on the shelf. All Joe's donors, a quick show of hands. How many of you sub to the Lockheed Martin OnlyFans? How many are loyalist patrons for the Raytheon Patreon? Occupy Iraq and send $1 million off into the great beyond. Cool yourself with the safety on. True to yourself in as much as you dutifully spew out a mucus of QAnon. You can't convince me the capital wasn't surrendered with every intention of digging us deeper down into the treacherous webbing of censorship, ebbing your speech and dissension so you can't hold Biden accountable. Not in his mentions and not in the streets. No to the end that Joe will defend the elite. Joe won't embarrass McConnell, but Joe's not embarrassed if all of your children are hungry and weak. Too hungry to speak. Too hungry to stand, they just lie at his feet.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? What's up, everybody? Hi. Holy shit, it's Sunday night again. We're here again because it's How Do We Miss That? And it's Sunday night. Although we missed last week. I actually decided to take a night off. Well, sort of. We did boats. But we decided not to do any horrible, fucking awful news for 1 week and give ourselves a little bit of a break. I know nobody else gets breaks. The Palestinians.
It's a Sunday.
That's true. Palestinians don't get breaks, but everyone needs a little break sometimes. So we took a little one last week. We're back. And I'm fired up. I'm angry about a bunch of shit. I think a lot of people are angry. It's been last night we did a Nobody Wants to Work Anymore with Himbo, and Lily joined us. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to Lily for joining us. She said she had a good time and would be happy to come back and do it again. Yep. Hey, how about that? And Nobody Wants to Work Anymore. Yeah, that's the show that we were doing last night. It's been a while. It's been like almost a year since we've done one, and I think the plan is to try to do one every couple of weeks. I think every week we just burn out. We got too much going on. But I think if you do it every couple of weeks or even once a month, it doesn't get as stale. It's easier to find topics and things to cover in between. What's up with you, man? How you been?
Stuff and things. Well, got a workout in, did all the stuff.
There were fights from Paris, but of course I missed that because it was in the middle of freaking afternoon yesterday.
Yeah, I caught a couple of them.
Anything decent?
Yeah, apparently the whole card was pretty good. Like only 2 decisions or something like that.
Okay.
I might go download it and check the whole thing, but
well, tonight we're going to talk about, of course, fuck Israel, because every week. But their murderous rage continues in Gaza, West Bank. There's a bunch of stuff that we're not even covering. There's so much there to cover. We are going to talk about the bombing of Gaza City, and we're going to talk about the new plan to annex and really the big push now for West Bank, which now they're talking about 80% of West Bank. And they're making their final push to get rid of everybody in Gaza. Some of the video and scenery has been horrific. Sean, we were talking about UFC, but Saturday, Angel's talking about boxing. Canelo was doing some kind of a fight. But we were talking about UFC,
Canelo, Terrence Crawford,
which was in Paris. Yeah, and they're both undefeated, I believe, Canelo and Terrence. So we do like to watch, vicariously watch other people beat the shit out of each other, because we don't do that. I don't advocate for violence, but I know Reef is not necessarily on the same side necessarily, but
yeah, I'll advocate for it.
Yeah,
choose
but I
violence,
certainly
friends.
Enjoy watching other people who choose violence fight each other on an even level playing field. Correct. All right, so that's important. But yeah, we're going to talk about Israel. We're going to talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia and all the narratives surrounding him right now, still. And then my least but somewhat favorite topic to talk about right now is how badly Substack is fucking up on a weekly basis. So I'm not very happy with them. I've been having like a little back and forth via the support, and now they seem to be trying to sort of help, but it took like really almost harassment level stuff to get them to even respond. And that needs to be, and then there's a whole thing about what's happening with what am I talking about? What's happening with I just blanked out. Wow.
What are you talking about? Are you okay? Sir?
Hello?
Have you been smoking marijuana?
Are we still here? Are we still live? Yes, we are. But no, about Substack shutting down somebody's account and removing their access to all their subscribers, taking their publication away with no notification, and almost Twitter-like random fucking rules that are turning around and telling people, well, we're reviewing it. 3 days, no access to notes, no access to, and we'll get into all that. It's a crazy, another censorship thing that's happening either by the tech bros or by Stripe or by some kind of an AI glitch. And I've had a big issue with Substack and their use of AI and the amount of AI that they've been trying to push on people. But before we get into it, I want to ask people to support the media they want to see. We did get a new annual subscriber this week to IndieMediaToday.com. A Cillier, thank you. Really, it really helps. There's tons of ways to do that. Easiest ways, Cash App, $, Indie News Network. Ko-fi.com/Indie News Network will pop something up on screen during the stream. You can go to paypal.me/Indie News Network and avoid any fees and us paying any fees if you do it as friends and family. We are live right now at IndieNewsNow.com. That's a website that we own and host. We self-host. We live stream there. And there's a Stripe plugin to be able to support the network. And then at INANewsletter.com. We got that too. INANewsletter.com is over on Substack, and IndieMediaToday.com is over on Substack. Both of them are there. You can subscribe monthly or annually over there, or subscribe for free because you'll get a bunch of newsletters and updates and live streams. And again, now we're live streaming to Substack, so you'll get alerts and notifications when we go live and that type of stuff there too. And you can watch ad-free. Everything on Substack is ad-free. At least for now, that's allegedly what's coming. We'll see. That's why I ask to support us outside of the platforms if possible. We don't know what's going to happen when, and it's a lot easier to do that separately. All right. I have got first story about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And we've been talking about him for too long. Honestly, this case should be dismissed. He should be home with his family, and he shouldn't be worrying about this shit anymore. But he's got cases. He's doing all the right things. And the Trump administration is determined to persecute this guy. So I grabbed this almost 2 weeks ago, and this guy is still like back in jail now. And Arturo Dominguez from Decolonized Journalism, I actually became a paid subscriber of Decolonized Journalism. I really like what this guy does. I support independent media with my wallet as well as, on the show. And we've used enough of his articles, and I'm comfortable with who he is based on, how he is on notes and the people he goes live with and everything. That's the kind of person that I think we should be learning from. Plus, his coverage on Venezuela and on CCOT and on what's happening in the Latino community is invaluable. So, he puts out this article about a week and a half ago, debunking DHS's claims about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, that despite the courts slamming the administration for how poorly it's treated him, the White House continues to make false claims about this guy. Like, they have to lie about him because they have nothing. They genuinely have nothing. Everything is old. Everything has been debunked. Everything has been refuted. So he starts at considering how often Trump likes to sue people for saying things that aren't wholly positive about him or his administration. Their duplicity in blatantly making false claims about migrants and citizens alike cannot be overemphasized. It's a tactic. All right. There's no more obvious case of this than how far the admin is going to defame Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who fled El Salvador, fearing for his and his family's life when he was just a teenager. Again, reminder of his backstory that he came to the U.S. in 2011 at 16 years old after members of the Barrio 18 gang in El Salvador threatened to kill him and rape his sisters. That's real. He eventually settled in Maryland, where he lived with his brother for many years without any legal trouble. In 2019, however, he was arrested for loitering while outside of a Home Depot looking for work. Yeah, I've never heard of anybody doing that, a migrant or anything. It was then that a now disgraced police officer pointed him out as an MS-13 gang member. Now, he's not. When lawyers demanded to see the evidence against Garcia, they were informed that a police report was never filed and that the officer who made the claim has been suspended for leaking information to a local sex worker. Garcia never faced charges. Meanwhile, after many court hearings and appeals, an immigration judge ruled that he wasn't eligible for asylum. The judge also ruled that despite issuing a deportation order, Garcia could not be deported, right? So he's considered a stateless refugee because it's not safe for him to be sent back to his country of origin, El Salvador, and both the U.S. and international law protect him from being deported. One major issue here is that Garcia is no longer has the protection that comes with a pending case in immigration court, and the administration is attempting to find a so-called safe third country to send him to. And because the admin is cruel, they want to send him to Uganda. What was that? Uganda. They want to send this one guy to Uganda and not another country that the U.S. has safe third country agreements with, like Canada or Paraguay, where he would be safe. Even after he was detained, summarily deported, and incarcerated at CCOT in El Salvador, the admin has tried every trick it can muster and failed to have the courts rule in its favor. After being released from CCOT and later incarcerated and held for no valid reason, that was in Kentucky, the courts demanded that he be released based on the laws and afforded to him by the U.S. Constitution, even as a non-citizen, even as a refugee, even as an immigrant. That hasn't stopped the White House. On August 22nd, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, the dog shooter, condemned Garcia's release using the same inflammatory language, calling him an MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, wife beater, and child predator. You've been gnomed. Without citing any evidence or continuing to cite evidence that has been debunked or thrown out in court due to its frivolous nature. So, activist liberal judges have attempted to obstruct our law enforcement every step of the way in removing the worst of the worst illegal aliens from our country. Why would they want to step in to do that? Really? Mm-hmm. He doesn't, break that down on its surface. What elected or judge. First of all, that's a lawyer who either got elected or appointed.
Yeah.
But they've got a career. They're a judge. It's not like they're just a schnook working at fucking Home Depot. All right. Not that people at Home Depot were any less than anything, but this person went through schooling and qualifications and swore an oath to the Constitution on top of all of that, like she's allegedly did. Right. But for whatever reason, the judge is now obstructing law enforcement, removing the worst illegal aliens from our country. First of all, the whole language is disgusting and designed to inflame and get the old people very angry and the rabble, 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 rabble. All right, that's exactly all it is, because they're not illegal, criminal, illegal aliens. This guy wasn't criminal and he wasn't illegal. He just wasn't eligible for asylum. Her evidence lies again with debunked information, and she repeatedly continues to cite how a member of the Prince George's County Police Gang Unit validated him as an MS-13 gang member while ignoring that his testimony was thrown out. She continues to cite the video that allegedly shows him as a human trafficker, but fails to acknowledge that making such a claim based on a dubious video doesn't equate to evidence or guilt. Attorneys question the credibility of people who provided the statements against him because they're facing a host of criminal charges and provided statements as part of a plea agreement. So they sold him out in order to get themselves a lesser charge. Noam also continues to use allegations as evidence of criminality, such as old and no longer valid restraining orders against him, while also alleging that, according to court filings, which not true, he solicited nude photographs of a minor. However, she only cited a New York Post article, again, which doesn't provide any evidence to support such a claim, but rather hearsay. This one was leaked by again, which doesn't provide any evidence to support such a claim, but rather hearsay. This one was leaked by Pam Bondi, Attorney General. All right, and it's back. Dude, what's going on?
Yeah, your internet.
Yeah, we're having another storm here, I think, tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, the allegations disconnect. That's a reconnect. Let's see if it comes back. What the fuck is going on? Like, I don't... All right. You know, my internet reset yesterday because of a power outage. So it's not that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll actually be able to connect now. I don't know.
You're having bad signal.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's back now. It looks like it's getting stronger. Okay. On August 25th, Noam bragged about taking Garcia back into custody during an immigration check-in and said he'd be processed for removal to Uganda. The courts have so far prevented his deportation pending an evidentiary hearing, but it's unclear if that will hold. Quote, today I saw law enforcement arrested Kilmar Abrego Garcia and are processing him for deportation. President Trump is not going to allow this illegal alien, fuck off, all right, who's an MS-13 gang member, no he's not, a human trafficker, no he's not, serial domestic abuser, now she's tacking the word serial onto it, and child predator, also not true. They just threw every single, why not call him an anti-Zionist and a Palestinian and a Hamas member to terrorize American citizens any longer? Unbelievable. All right. All of it. Later on Monday, DHS came out swinging against any lawmakers who pointed out how far the White House is going to manufacture crimes to make Latino immigrants seem like hardened criminals. Noam and her staff continued to use the same accusations and allegations against Garcia without providing any evidence of these supposed crimes. Crimes that the courts have repeatedly said never occurred based on the scant evidence that they have provided. The far right and DHS have been hung up on calling him a Maryland man instead of their preferred hateful language of calling him an illegal alien. DHS also included in its press release a list of sanctuary politicians who continue to defend this known MS-13 gang member. Again, she throws out all the terms, again using the inflammatory language, baseless accusations that'll inevitably lead to lawmakers being targeted by extremists who support what the administration is doing despite the facts. Awesome. Garcia hasn't done anything wrong. Even if he did, like many other migrants who fell on the wrong side of the law and did their time, they paid their debt to society according to the laws of this country and the court system that upholds those laws. Additional punishment, especially being sent to third countries with poor human rights records, serves one purpose: intentional cruelty inflicted on Latinos and Black people. So this is personal for Arturo for sure. Whether you're an immigrant or not, the White House doesn't seem to care. And that's the thing, is that it just starts there. It doesn't end there. We all know this. All right. I think we're back and with a stronger signal now. So hopefully
I think you're
to
good.
go there. All right. That again was Arturo Dominguez, Decolonized Journalism. Sorry it was a little choppy. I'll have to fix that in the edit for the clip thing, but
Fix it in post.
and look at that. We actually lost a stream and now it's a second stream. So we might have lost it like on, I don't know where, like BitChute or something. I don't care.
YouTube's still fine.
YouTube's good. Rumble's good. That's all that really matters. Rumble usually holds it pretty well. Substack is going okay. I see everyone. Hi, everybody over on Substack. So
everyone
Trump
do the fucking
administration-
good internet dance.
it's a lot more
The only way to make it better.
It's happening obviously to a lot more than just Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
I still don't get what their end goal for all this is. Like, yeah, it plays to your base, but like, then what? You know?
Right.
Like, when it used to be like Trump tried to court those like groups of people. You know? No, he's like, fuck it, get out. We're deporting everybody. Like, that's what I don't get. It's just like a weird right wing fucking. We're gonna deport you. Get out of our country. It's like, okay, you know.
He's given them what they've been
Like,
asking
there's
for.
some
the whole
other
time.
motive that I've not. Yeah, I'm not fucking figured out.
Well,
So-
this is the video that I saw today. Masked men disappear U.S. citizens in an unmarked van in Chicago for protesting ICE. Who are you? Where are you taking them? People cry out. You're
Yeah.
kidnapping them. Agents attacked at least 3 protesters using batons, pinning them face down into concrete, according to witness Bianca Pais. ICE later confirmed that it was their agents who detained the protesters, claiming they were impeding federal operations. All 3 individuals were finally released without charges in downtown Chicago. So if they were impeding federal operations, wouldn't they have been charged with something? Here's the video.
Something. No, you're charged with impeding. This is not a charge.
You are required to tell me, where are you taking them? Where are you taking them? Where
Fucking
are you?
punch that gangly ass FBI agent in his dick.
Where are you taking them? Civilians with destitute without identifying yourself as a police officer. You are kidnapping them. Tell us where.
Look at that, picking them up off their feet and loading them into a fucking van.
Tell us where you are taking
Black
them.
van.
You cannot do this. Tell us where. Hey,
Wow.
where are you?
I mean, you're not really helping. Seriously, like the way you're yelling like that, it does not make you sound
I mean, it's something.
any less unhinged, but I get it.
Nah, fuck that.
And that's happening all over the country right now, not just in Chicago. It's happened in D.C. We've seen it that happened to Ramasio Ozturk, basically. It happened to Mahmoud Khalil in the middle of the night. And it's been happening more and more often. So that's fucked up. We certainly don't get love from the YouTube algorithm for that. So if you're able to and a means, please support the media you want to see. The easiest ways to do that are Cash App, that goes right to my phone, $ Indie News Network. Then we've got ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. We got paypal.me/Indie News Network. We got IndieNewsNow.com. That's our website. We're live right there right now on the live page. But there's also a ton of news that isn't just our stuff. And then we've got the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com and IndieMediaToday.com. So that was, DHS is not doing the nicest things, but we all knew that that was coming. We've been reporting on them disappearing people off the streets. Now it's coming that they're doing it to the protesters, and now they're being aided by the local police in these city takeovers. And of course, I saw something about the bootlicking mayor of D.C. thanking Trump for carjackings being down 87%. Yeah, travel and tourism is down like 87%, my guess would be too. You know, freedom is down 100%, but obviously she doesn't give a shit about that. Hi, everybody, for hanging out.
No, they really don't.
No, they really don't.
I still don't get it. Like, okay, like, yeah, we got to put the fear back into people so they stop saying shit. But, like, they're not going to.
Right?
Good luck.
Why is that not?
So,
all
right.
Know. There we go. I got John H here. What's up, John? John the Accord Lord is here. I'm trying to see how many people are actually here. Oh, and it's giving me all kinds of errors because
the pipes.
Something happened with the twatters, and okay, whatever. The chat works, and that's all that really matters. I think the chat works. Okay, good. You are here. Awesome. Good to see you, John. Thank you for hanging out and for sharing the stream. Everybody share the stream if you can. Share it to Twitter. Share it to Facebook. Fred Edward has been doing a kick-ass job of sharing it everywhere. And that's how we get more people seeing the show. So, and seeing these perspectives that are buried in corporate media. Unfortunately, Arturo is not invited to speak anywhere near corporate media, for example. Nor is our next contestant up on the feud. Asal Rod, professor, one of my favorite speakers, and she's been correcting all the headlines, which is amazing. Western media will always give Israel the benefit of propaganda. Talking about genocide, obviously, for nearly 2 years, Western media has normalized Israeli war crimes and dehumanized Palestinians amid Gaza's ongoing genocide. They've been complicit, whitewashing, and we've talked about this at length, but I just think she puts it beautifully.
Oh, God. That fucking photo is brutal.
Blood on the phone, looking at the journalist
on the fucking phone.
On a lock screen. Yep. All right. Language isn't neutral. It shapes the way we perceive global events with profound implications for public opinion. In the context of the Gaza genocide, the discourse deployed by Western media is far from objective. Do you denounce Hamas? What is it? What do you say, Pierce Morgan? How about do you denounce Israel? It often contributes to the dehumanization of Palestinians while reinforcing pro-Israel narratives. This bias isn't just about what is reported, it's about what isn't, but also about how the story is told. Israel's recent bombing of Nasser Hospital provides a striking illustration of how media coverage can normalize war crimes. Now, if you don't know what happened, she's going to describe it, but Reef and Colin covered this on INN News. This was the double tap. So they bombed the hospital, and then they waited and sent more bombs to kill the rescue workers and the journalists that covered the bombing. For nearly 2 years, we've witnessed a clear pattern of mainstream media coverage on Gaza. Israeli actions are often described using terms like self-defense or targeting Hamas, framing them as justified, and Israeli officials are treated as legitimate sources for the facts regarding all events. On the other hand, Palestinian sources like journalists, witnesses, and doctors are often doubted, and the historical context of their systematic oppression under Israeli occupation is often absent from the reporting. Like it all happened in a vacuum. This linguistic imbalance shapes how the issue of Palestinian liberation is even understood, positioning Israel as the victim and Palestinians as aggressors, regardless of the power disparity between the two. And wealth disparity, by the way. So this describes Israel as the cry-bullying victim. For decades, Western media has perpetuated this skewed narrative and consistently minimized Palestinian suffering while amplifying Israeli victimhood. A January 2024 report from The Intercept offered evidence of the systematic bias in major Western outlets, such as New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times.
Fuck The Intercept.
Fuck The Intercept, too. The quantitative
and
analysis.
Also fuck them. Fuck all those fucking news.
Right. All of them. The quantitative analysis revealed that emotive words like slaughter or massacre were almost exclusively used to describe Israeli civilian deaths, while adopting more neutral terms for Palestinian civilian deaths. This imbalance isn't an accident.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deliberate effort by the media to distort the reality of the conflict and shape public perception to diminish the scale of Israel's violence against Palestinians. The corporate media's coverage in the aftermath of Israel's most recent horrific attack on Nasser Hospital provides another egregious example of this calculated bias. The attack, reminder, which killed at least 20 people, including journalists and rescue workers, was part of a broader pattern of Israeli assaults on Gaza's healthcare infrastructure. Also something that we have been talking about at length for 2 years. We've been bringing stories of them targeting healthcare workers, targeting ambulances, targeting hospitals, kidnapping Dr. Hussam Abu Safia in December. And free that guy now. All right? Despite overwhelming evidence, Western media outlets initially prioritized official Israeli statements that tried to soften public outrage by calling the bombing a mistake, running headlines that framed the incident as a tragic mishap. This form of reporting, which downplays Israeli crimes and legitimizes its violence, is not new. However, what made the hospital bombing particularly notable was the release of the footage showing that it was hit in a double tap attack, clearly targeting the rescue workers in broad daylight who were responding to the initial strike. And of course, there's no accountability. As footage of Israel's direct strike on rescue workers spread across social media, fueling public outcry, it was evident that this was not an isolated incident. All right, we know that, but a deliberate targeting of journalists and medical personnel. Another one. Instead of condemning the attack as an obvious war crime, Western media echoed Israeli claims. Again. When Israel later stated that the hospital was targeted due to a Hamas camera, and they really published that in fucking Reuters, Hamas camera being present.
This is the fucking dumbest shit.
A claim so outlandish it's almost laughable. The media unquestionably reported this absurdity as a justification for the attack, and thanks to Reuters, it was disseminated to every major outlet in the world. By accepting and reporting Israel's explanation, the media helped reinforce the narrative that bombing hospitals was somehow acceptable in the context of targeting Hamas or a so-called Hamas camera. This failure to challenge Israeli claims is emblematic of how Western media regularly parrots official accounts, even when they defy basic morality and logic. Just like we talked about in the last story with Arturo. Go ahead. When they defy basic morality and logic. Just like we talked about in the last story with Arturo. Go ahead.
They sent 3 fucking missiles. You need 3 missiles to kill a camera?
Oh boy, this is fun. Okay. So it wasn't until after the initial wave of coverage, which sought to then absolve Israel of yet another war crime, that some outlets began to report the truth. All right. An investigation by the New York Times contradicted Israel's account and rationale for the attack. Later coverage from the British bullshit company and, cunty news network revealed that Israel had attacked Nasser Hospital more than the 2 initial strikes originally reported. As Reef just said, it was actually 3 strikes. Though the later reports refuted Israel's explanation, they still didn't employ the language of war crimes, and the damage had already been done. That's the idea, is to report the wrong thing first, so the perception is out there, and then correct it on page 17 later on. Indeed, after flooding the airwaves in the wake of the attacks with Israel's ridiculous explanations, Israeli talking points had already become entrenched in the public discourse. That's the idea. That's their game, is to get people believing the nonsense and then be like, yeah, but that's not really true and blah, 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 and then retract it. But already, again, what's the story that a lie can make its way around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on? Ayuba Ahmad on Substack. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for all you do, man. Really, I appreciate you. Even Reuters, which had its own reporter killed in this attack, not just this attack.
I know.
Lebanon. Reuters failed to acknowledge the deliberate nature of the Israeli strikes. Instead, their headlines again repeated Israeli statements asserting that journalists were not the intended targets. This despite overwhelming evidence that Israel has consistently targeted and killed their Palestinian colleagues and employees in Gaza, resulting in a staggering number of casualties among the press alone. And their families, by the way. So now she's talking here about propaganda over truth. This again is Asal Rod, Professor Asal Rod, writing for the New Arab. She's great. The media's initial reporting and subsequent failure to hold Israel truly accountable highlights a disturbing trend in which Western outlets choose Israeli propaganda over the truth, often downplaying and normalizing blatant violations of international law. As such, the media allows the continued dehumanization of Palestinians and the normalization of Israel's atrocities, even genocide and ethnic cleansing and baby murder and starvation, forced starvation and drought. The Nasser hospital bombing is not an aberration. It's part of a larger pattern of Israeli aggression against Gaza's civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, homes, and schools. And now they're doing the same thing in Lebanon. And they're doing the same thing in southern Syria, too. These attacks are plainly war crimes under international law. We've been calling that every week. Yet, Western media's refusal to hold Israel accountable or to even call their actions by their appropriate name is symptomatic of a deeper problem of how Israel's oppression of Palestinians has been understood in the Western world. Again, a lot of it is who owns the fucking outlets? Who's hiring the reporters and the editors? And who are they loyal to? And who are they being influenced by? Look at what just happened with David Ellison. We're going to talk about that later on tonight at Skydance, now looking to buy the Free Press and put Barry Weiss in charge of CBS News potentially. If maybe even all of CBS, who knows? But rather than immediately challenging Israel's account of the Nasser hospital bombing and contextualizing it within the larger story of the Gaza genocide, legacy media repeated Israeli talking points, again helping to normalize the attack as regrettable but inevitable part of war, not a one-sided massacre. When was the last time you even heard about any rockets or any return fire coming out of Gaza anywhere? And how is this a battle again? This ongoing bias in Western media coverage of Gaza is not only about misreporting, it's also about complicity. We're going to talk about complicity later on tonight when we get to Matt Taibbi and shitting all over him. When the media acts as stenographers for genocidal states instead of defenders of truth, they become enablers of that very violence, Well, they also are funding and providing air support and spy flight support and military support and operational support and intelligence support. So, yes, they certainly are enablers of that very violence, not just the media, because the media acts as a propaganda arm of the U.S. government and the Israeli government. By normalizing war crimes, Western media is culpable for them. I believe that there were media that were indicted and hanged at Nuremberg. And I believe that people like Piers Morgan, if we do have a Nuremberg-style hearing at some point, the media like David Muir and all the lead anchors for all the major networks that spouted this stuff unquestioningly all need to go in front of that tribunal. And they're having one, by the way, right now called the Gaza Tribunal. I believe Jeremy Corbyn and all the people that do these tribunals, there were several of them about Julian Assange, I remember. They had tribunals. All right. But that's just the first fuck Israel story. We've got plenty of them tonight. A few of them, not too many, because we're going to get the boats later on tonight.
I sent you one in your DM too. I don't know if you have that or not.
I don't know, but this one, Israel is besieging Gaza City from 3 directions, pushing the nearly 1 million Palestinians still left, currently sheltering there, towards southern Gaza. Still, they're saying, oh yeah, the Gaza's population, how is it a genocide if they're increasing? There's only 1 million people left right now, according to this.
Yeah.
Each military advance flattens homes and infrastructure in its path, threatening the erasure of millennia-old Gaza City. Well, we got that happened, and displacing the people sheltering there. Most of the areas in southern Gaza, which the military have allocated for relocation, are within no-go zones or in areas unsuitable for habitation. That's where they want people to live, 1 million people, in like these little tiny patches of land, these little areas. They're out of their fucking minds. Yeah. But that's not even really what they want. They want to kill them all and take all of the... Look at all that orange.
Well, and look at...
Go ahead.
If you notice, there isn't any fucking green ones in the north, is there?
Nope.
Like, continually push them further south.
Anything north of the Netzarim corridor is now deemed a no-go zone. And they've already destroyed all of this area, as is their plan. And this is where they're shoving everybody who's left. And again, their plan is to push them right into the Mediterranean, or to get some country to eventually take whoever's left. But of course, the big issue...
Even though they have a fucking no-go zone right in front of Egypt, so they're not going that way.
The big issue, again, with anybody taking whoever's left is A, it's their fucking land and they are never going to leave it, nor should they have to. But B, if they do accept it, that means that they're accepting Israel removing them from the land and stealing all of it for themselves. Nobody's going to do that. They're going to have to murder everybody there if they want to take that land, and then live with that and know throughout history that that's what they had to do in order to do it, and then be conquered at some point because they had to do that, because that's how history's always worked. It's just a matter of when. You know, at some point, we are not going to be the big bad swinging dick to defend them with a military that's so big that anybody else in the world is afraid to challenge it. And it may be 10 years, it may be 20 years. I'm hoping it's a lot sooner than that, but we have no idea. Again, our military is preparing for China 2027. We reported on that a year ago. We covered that 1 year ago. So they're, again, pushing them further and further into a smaller area. Israeli troops are advancing toward Gaza City from 3 directions. Jabalia in the north, Shujaya in the east, and most recently, the Netzarim corridor in the south. All right? This leaves Palestinians with only one place to go, toward the coast, along the Al-Rashid Road, and into southern Gaza, like we saw here, right here. They're pushing them out of Gaza City, and they're literally just dropping bombs all over them. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's the one that you sent me. Oh, the leaflets. Yeah, I couldn't believe this one. They're dropping leaflets over Gaza City, warning people to get out. And they're like, where are we supposed to fucking go? That's literally...
Look at that.
And they're like,
it's
oh,
like
yeah,
what we did before fucking Nagasaki.
That's humane. I believe I actually responded to this and be like, you know, these monsters, where are they supposed to go? You know, dropping leaflets. Yeah. Look at first of all, the buildings are all bombed out and they can barely live in them anyway. They're practically uninhabitable. Right. And we just saw the map, right? Like, they're here. Where are they supposed to go when they start dropping bombs? Well, they want them all to go here. And then they're probably going to drop a bomb on that too. That would be my guess, is their plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's just continued fucking fish in a barrel. You just got to make the barrel smaller.
All right. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring before we read the article about what they're doing is this flotilla thing, because they have sent a massive flotilla to try to deliver aid and to break the blockade that Israel's been pushing. This is a surfboard.
It's looking at us right now. How's it going?
Equipped with saddle. This is the Israelis spying on the flotilla.
What is going on? Is this thing driving itself?
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like a surfboard with Starlink and cameras on it in the middle of the ocean. Look at this thing.
At Blacktip?
It's got cameras. It's got a FLIR on it. Dude, this is the craziest thing ever. Look, we've just found a thermal camera and a Starlink on a paddleboard. Like some spy software. It's
not like.
It's got a propeller.
It is. And I guarantee you there's a drone operator somewhere.
There's more of them? What?
Yep. That's how they're literally tracking this flotilla. It's it's fucking crazy, man. It's absolutely insane. Where's the thing I sent you earlier? This one. Yeah, that's the one I wanted to play. Greg Stoker. He's actually on the boat. All right. And he sums up exactly what's happening really well.
Last minute to attach a veterans boat to the global Samud flotilla is because we know firsthand that as we witness the final assault upon Gaza City, which is sheltering hundreds of thousands of civilians, half of whom are children, this begins and ends with the United States empire. We also know that Israel is not conducting a military operation in Gaza City. It has no timeline, no operational parameters, no cohesive battlefield plan beyond saturation bombing every last high rise in the area. The unachievable goal of recovering their hostages, prisoners of war actually, since they're all military personnel, through military action, and the impossible strategic goals of defeating resistance forces in the field and reestablishing military deterrence across West Asia. None of those are going to happen. This is a land grab. This is ethnic cleansing and genocide in service to the capital interests of the U.S. empire and the transnational ruling elite. This is what they have decided is normal. Real estate opportunity of the Gaza Riviera, the untapped natural gas that lies in the Gaza Marine Basin, the possibility of a new waterway from the port of Eilat to northern Gaza to rival the Suez Canal. All of this, for them, the Palestinians are in the way. And there is no possibility of moving ahead with these plans until they are all removed or annihilated, as it's the only way to be sure that all resistance is snuffed out. They're just playing for time. Genocides take a long time to effectuate. Starvation and disease can take years, as there's never enough soldiers and never enough bombs to kill millions of people directly. And the brutal arithmetic of this genocidal war, it's bad resource allocation and it's bad for morale. You know, the SS Einsatzgruppen had the same problem in Poland in the 40s. Therefore, we are watching in horror the slow process of famine, sickness, and constant displacement under the guise of evacuation orders. This is the modern day Trail of Tears. So remember, Americans and citizens of Europe, The same elites that are supporting this foreign policy in Palestine, built entirely on a combination of messianic ideology and capital accumulation, are the same people that push for the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and are the same people crafting domestic policy in your own homelands. Whatever they're willing to do to Palestinians, they'll do to you. So no one is safe until this is made to stop. No one is going to be free until Palestine is free. That's just the beginning, okay? Because a better world is possible, and we're already building it. So as the Samud Flotilla is assailed in international waters, trying to establish a humanitarian corridor to Gaza amidst the siege of Gaza City, you need to decide what y'all are going to do on the home front to try to bring this insanity to an end. So think about it. You got about 2 weeks to free Palestine. The reason we scrambled so hard last minute.
That's a good damn video, man. He nailed a ton of talking points in a very short amount of time, which is why I felt it was important to bring it. He talked about the Ben Gurion Canal. He talked about the gas that's under Gaza. He talked about a lot of the stuff, you know, half of them being children. And he's at least trying to do something. Again, we've talked about flotillas and that they're performative in nature. You know, what else do you do at this point? So I guess, you know, performative is better than standing around, but, you know, stopping the weapons manufacturers and BDS is also effective. You know, big time. Make sure that you vote with your wallet, that you make sure that the companies that you're soliciting and the goods that you're buying are not supporting genocide. And there's a big list. So that's one way you can do that. So he talked about what's happening in Gaza City. I brought this Murderous article. Airstrikes, explosive vehicles, and bulldozers cause insane destruction in Gaza City, eyewitnesses and civil defense say. Indie Media Award honoree Mondo Weiss. Greg is writing for Indie Media Award honoree Mint Press, by the way, or doing podcasts for them. He says this is Tariq Hajjaj. The Israeli army is using airstrikes, rigged explosive APCs, and bulldozing operations to level neighborhoods and displacement centers in Gaza City. Eyewitnesses and local officials say it's to cause mass flight and prevent residents from returning, because it'll give them nothing to return to. All right, and that's the destruction of the Al-Falah school in Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood. That was a school. Fucking horrible.
Yep.
Ahead of its full-scale invasion, a planned full-scale invasion of Gaza City, the Israeli army is causing widespread destruction in the Strip's largest urban center, forcing residents to evacuate ahead of its publicly declared start date, October 7th. How convenient. Recent reports from eyewitnesses and civil defense show that the Israeli army has been using retrofitted armored personnel carriers, or APCs, that are sent into dense population centers, including neighborhoods and displacement centers, before they are remotely detonated. How nice. The attacks continue alongside an extensive bulldozing operation in the city and constant aerial bombardment. Between August 12th and August 18th, the Israeli army destroyed over 400 buildings in the Zaytun neighborhood and launched a limited ground incursion at its edges. The army also launched a similar operation in the Sabra neighborhood west of Gaza City. Civil defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basal told Mondo Weiss that the Israeli army destroyed over 1,500 buildings in Gaza City in aerial strikes alone since August 6th, largely in Zaytun and Sabra. 1,500 buildings. Anybody live in those buildings? Notice they never mention people. Basal explained that the civil defense continues to receive calls from trapped civilians in the two neighborhoods, but that there's no way to reach them due to heavy shelling and bombardment. How about stopping the fucking shelling and bombardment, assholes? We're afraid that the Israeli invasion will get even deeper into Gaza City and that civil defense crews will be unable to reach the places they bomb. I can't imagine why. Nowhere in Gaza is safe, whether north or south. Bombs chase residents from their homes, from their displacement centers and even from their tents, literally leaving them nowhere to go 24/7, running from bombs all day, every day for 2 fucking years. Imagine that were you, how you would handle this, watching everybody around you killed one by one with these fucking starvation centers run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's really just a fucking Merc group that's run by Eric Prince. Abdul Wahab Ismail, resident of the Saftawi area in northwestern Gaza, evacuated his neighborhood on Tuesday after several buildings on his street were detonated by what he described as explosive robots. That's the APCs. Quote, the Israeli army sends the robots near our homes, which they park there to terrorize us. Okay, the army doesn't detonate them right away, waiting for fear to push us to flee. When people don't leave, the army detonates the robots, regardless of whether there's civilians in the area. They just don't give a shit. Because nobody's holding them accountable for their war crimes. The robots, quote unquote, described by Ismail are likely the Israeli army's outdated M113 APC models, which have been retrofitted with explosives and remotely detonated near buildings throughout it's not a war, it's a massacre. Ismail told Mondo Weiss that neither he nor his family had time to take anything from their home due to fears that the APC near them would be detonated. So he says before now, the army used to blow up 1 or 2 buildings with the robots. Now they destroy dozens of buildings at once. Robots and warplanes working together to destroy every place in Gaza City. Ismail said that he and his family won't leave. They can't afford transportation to move south and get a tent there, and they can't move on foot either. We arrived here in the west of Gaza with nothing. We're on the street. We'll try to find something to cover our heads with, but we're staying in Gaza City. And we know what that's going to mean. They're going to eventually be killed, unfortunately, because nobody's going to stop this. In lieu of a full-scale invasion, the Israeli army is using its combination of airstrikes, rigged APCs, limited incursions, and bulldozing operations to compel residents to flee ahead of the planned ground invasion. Flee where, assholes? Flee where? To another fucking camp? Basal said the army has been carrying out the wide-scale bulldozing buildings in Gaza City, clearing and flattening entire neighborhoods in a manner similar to other neighborhoods in Gaza City and other parts of Gaza. And there's links to show where that's happened. It's a large-scale bulldozing operation that's leveling the Zaytun and Sabra neighborhoods, because this is making way for them to start building almost immediately. The army uses bulldozers run and owned by private Israeli contractors. Again, the private contractors are the ones that are getting these contracts to do that, follow up, level the buildings, make sure the ground is clear, so Trump and Kushner and their investors can start sending in building materials and dump trucks to clear out the rubble. Because they've already sold that land, or started to. But Basal clarified that the explosive APCs are now taking center stage at this point in the Gaza City operation, describing the remote-controlled vehicles as death robots. Are you ready for this to come to our town? Because it's probably going to at some point.
Mm-hmm. Already here.
Death robots? No. Exploding APCs in U.S. cities? We don't have that yet.
The APCs are there, though.
Not the ones that explode and take out buildings and people.
Remote armored person. I mean, just put some C4 on one, which is what happened here.
As of August 6th, the Israeli army has sent up to 5 robots to different areas inside Gaza City every single day, especially in the Al Zaytun and Al Saftawi areas. All right, asserting that the APC's blast radius is 100 meters and destroys or severely damages anything within that distance. He confirmed that the Israeli army has not yet fully advanced into the city, but has used remote vehicles to level buildings and intimidate residents into mass flight. Oh, thanks for that. Yes, they Jesus. Basal said this goal is apparent
Just another war crime.
Given one of the APC's targets, civilian displacement centers. According to Basal, the APCs have been used to destroy every displacement center in the Al Zaytun neighborhood to prevent people from staying in the area. Basal described the destruction as unprecedented. Yes, when they destroy 80 or 100% of an area, that certainly is unprecedented. The destruction operations in Al Zaytun suggest something insane and unimaginable, he said. Complete areas were erased and bulldozed. All the schools in the area were destroyed. Not a single school has been left standing in Al Zaytun. It's a clear plan to annihilate the entire area. Over 80% of it has already been destroyed. We're talking again about over 1,500 buildings destroyed by aerial bombardment alone. That's before you get in there with the robots. The buildings destroyed by robots are not included. This is destruction like the Beit Hanun area. Gaza residents are reluctant to flee under bombardment. Of course they are, because while the Israeli army has continued to drop leaflets and call Gaza residents by phone, would you ever answer your phone with a 972 area code? I know I wouldn't. All right. Promising that humanitarian areas are being prepared for evacuees in the south. That reminds me like Mars attacks. Like, we come in peace. We come in peace. As they're fucking shooting at them. Israeli Army Arabic spokesperson, I don't give a fuck what his name is, posted a warning to the residents of Gaza City ahead of stage 2 of the operation. Quote, evacuating Gaza City is inevitable. They're the Borg. Every family moving south
Resistance is futile.
That's right. Will receive the maximum humanitarian aid currently being prepared, which is nothing. That $5,000. Trump is saying $5,000 for everything you own, for everything that you've ever known, for all the land, your entire family, your memories, everything. $5,000. Take it or die. And die. The spokesperson said that the Israeli army was setting up tents and preparing areas for distribution of humanitarian aid, the construction of water pipelines, and other infrastructure. You mean the ones that they already had and that Israel already destroyed?
Right.
But so far, most people evacuating the city.
Plants and fucking
all the streets and the ambulances and the power plants and the generators. Most people evacuating the city do so only when the bombing reaches them due to the lack of other options, residents are reporting. The residents of Al Zaytun are almost 80,000, Basal said. Only about 20,000 remain in place. The rest had to leave when the bombing reached them if they weren't killed, but all of them left for other parts of Gaza City, mostly to the west, not to the south. One person in 1,000 decides to follow Israeli army orders, he said, clarifying that most people have no funds to hire transportation, which costs over $300, while a tent costs over $1,000. We could walk into a fucking Walmart and buy one for $25. $1,000 for somebody in Gaza because they have nowhere else to go, and that's how scarce they are. That's how valuable anything to shelter them that isn't a destroyed building is. People have also already tried what displacement was like in the south. They know there's no safety there. The Israeli army burns people alive inside their tents. And we've covered that on more than one occasion, too. Fuck Israel for all of those things.
Yep.
Again, this is not a war. It's a massacre. There is nobody fighting back at this point. There are like 10, quote-unquote, hostages left, which Israel has clearly said they don't care about, and multiple times while they're bombing knows that they could potentially be murdering those hostages. They don't care. It's not about the hostages.
Yeah.
The hostages' families have charged Israel with not caring about the hostages and using them as a prop and the justification for continuing to do what they do, which is massacring everybody in the area so they can steal the land. Now, we're getting a little long, so I'm not going to cover this whole thing. I'm just going to show you the headline because holy shit. Another Mondo Weiss headline. This one from September 4th by Qassam Mughadi. The new Israeli map proposing to annex 80% of the West Bank explained. Israeli finance manager Bezalel Smotrich released a map proposing to annex over 80% of the West Bank. He's not far off from the rest of the Israeli political establishment. Even the pragmatic opposition wants to take most of the land. They want to push people into these 6 yellow zones, sorry. Where's the map? Here it is.
Yeah.
That's where they want everybody. That's where they have now.
The map.
They want them in those tiny little spots. And settlers are going to live all around them, by the way. Get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
So getting back to the article here. All right, he presented a map showing all of West Bank as a part of Israel, including Bethlehem, the Jordan Valley, and the entire Palestinian countryside, while only 6 Palestinian cities, Jenin, Tulkarem, Nablus, Jericho, Ramallah, and Hebron, were marked as isolated ghettos. Smotrich said that if the Palestinian Authority opposes his plan, Israel would uproot it like it did with Hamas. So they'll just take it all. Smotrich also called on Netanyahu to implement his proposal if he wished to enter history as a great leader. These fucking ghouls. War crimes. The Hague is not good enough for these people. Well, saying fuck Israel, covering stories like that are certainly not going to get our channel remonetized by YouTube. We have been demonetized since just after October 7th for putting up a video that told people that what Hamas is doing is resistance, and when a people are occupied, resistance is justified. Apparently, that's not okay with YouTube. Thank you to Descent in Bloom and to Sean the Accord Lord already for tonight. They've already contributed using Cash App and PayPal. The other ways to do that, again, are a Cash App $ Indie News Network. We've got ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. That's what Sean did. Then we've got the websites at IndieNewsNow.com. We're live there now, and there's a ton of different news that you can catch up with, all from independent sources, and at the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com, and as well as at IndieMediaToday.com, where we're actually live right now also. Welcome and hello to everyone watching on Substack. Thank you so much for doing that. The next story is also crazy. Of course, we know that media is the media that is actually trying to report the truth and hold Israel to account is being targeted by the Hasbaras, by the Zionists, and they're trying to silence them and get them treated as terrorists in some cases. So, in that vein, there is a publication called the Palestine Chronicle run by Ramzi Baroud. They've become a target in the UK. This case is not justice. It's intimidation. It's not law. It's propaganda dressed in the robes of a courtroom. This is written by Ramzi Baroud. So this is the perspective of the outlet being targeted. Let me make this a little bigger so people can follow along. The Palestine Chronicle is not a militant organization. It is a modest, independent publication sustained by small donations and animated by a singular mission to bear witness. It tells the untold stories of Palestine, documenting dispossession, resistance, and the endurance of a people condemned to silence. In a media landscape dominated by powerful conglomerates repeating the language of governments, which is what we talked about from Asal Rod earlier, the Chronicle insists on a journalism of proximity, grounded in daily lives, in the rubble of Gaza, in voices otherwise erased. Its true offense in the eyes of detractors is not invention, but truth. At the heart of this endeavor stands Ramzi Baroud. His career is the antithesis of clandestine. For decades, he has written, taught, and spoken in public, producing books translated into multiple languages, contributing columns to international publications, and addressing audiences in universities and public forums across continents. He's not a shadowy figure. He's a man whose work has been consistent, transparent, and intellectually rigorous, even when you disagree with him. His life is not untouched by the tragedy he describes. Many members of his family were killed under Israeli bombardments. Yet, while mainstream media rushed to amplify unproven allegations against him, they remained deaf to his personal grief. His tragedy was ignored, his integrity overlooked, his voice distorted, because his engagement is unbearable for those who would prefer silence. He's an engaged journalist of the noblest sense, independent, lucid, unflinching. His so-called crime is not collusion with violence, but fidelity to memory. We covered that how many years ago? Is something we talk about all the time. That's why he's demonized, not for what he's done in law, but for what he represents in conscience. America, unable to silence Palestinian voices through censorship alone, now instrumentalizes its justice system to achieve by indictment what it failed to achieve by argument. Having harassed universities, intimidated students, and punished professors for their solidarity with Gaza, it now turns the courtroom into a new battlefield. And Congress, captive to the whims of its Zionist paymasters, not just masters, but paymasters, joins the manhunt targeting a journalist for the sole offense of telling the truth about his people. As for the mainstream corporate press, it chooses cowardice, as it always does, ignoring his family's suffering, ignoring the emptiness of the charges, while echoing the accusations of power as if they were evidence. Twisted law into weapon? Yeah, that's what they're doing. The complaint filed against Ramzi Baroud and the organization, the People Media Project, that runs the Palestine Chronicle, rests on the Aliens Tort Statute, grotesquely overstretched to criminalize editorial decisions rather than acts of war. It alleges that by publishing articles from Abdallah al-Jamal, who's described by Israel as a Hamas operative killed during a hostage rescue, the Chronicle aided and abetted terrorism. But here lies the first fissure. The characterization of al-Jamal comes exclusively from Israeli military sources, themselves a belligerent party. Trust me, bro. It's never been independently verified. The claim that he was both a journalist and a Hamas operative remains an allegation, not an established fact. To treat it as judicial evidence is to replace proof with propaganda. It's, a selective convenience. Even if, hypothetically, al-Jamal had, at the demand of a militant group, harbored hostages, such a circumstance would not in itself render him culpable. What ordinary civilian in a war zone can refuse the command of militants under threat of force? And even if it occurred, how could Ramzi Baroud have known it? Even taken at face value, the allegation collapses upon scrutiny. No evidence demonstrates that the Chronicle or its editor had actual knowledge of al-Jamal's supposed operational role, even though it doesn't exist, nor that modest freelance payments, if any at all, bore any casual nexus to hostage-taking. They're just twisting this. The federal judge in February of 2025 dismissed the original complaint precisely for lack of proof or knowledge or intent. The plaintiffs returned with an amended filing, repackaged in rhetoric and pathos, but still devoid of the material elements required under international law. Actus reus, a substantial contribution to the crime, and mens rea, intent or knowledge. They don't have them. to equate the publication of articles with material support for terrorism is not jurisprudence, but a juridical contortion. It is the substitution of law by politics, the criminalization of journalism under the mask of counterterrorism. All right? Journalism is not a crime. What is sought isn't justice, but intimidation. To cast suspicion on every Palestinian voice, to brand their words as weapons, their witness as crime. They want to silence everyone that's speaking about Palestine. Thus, the legal emptiness is evidence. All right, and they give the jurisdiction was overstretched because the ATS was never intended to criminalize editorial contracts, that there were elements unmet, that there was no proven knowledge or intent, no substantial assistance at all. All right, that factual information was, he was literally just republishing what the guy was telling him. Factual information foundation was unstable. Again, the Hamas label rests on unverified allegations from one warring party that has complete stake in treating this person and calling them that, even though they don't have evidence and I haven't produced any. And then political aim is transparent, which is to silence Palestinians and punish one of their most articulate representatives for independence. This case is not justice, it's intimidation. It's not law, it's propaganda dressed in the robes of a courtroom. The allegation against Ramzi Baroud rests not on proof, but on the word of a belligerent army. An army that bombs, besieges, and murders, then dictates who's a journalist, who's a terrorist, who's fit to speak. To transform those claims into evidence is to surrender law itself to war. We just talked about that double tap thing. It's the same type of thing. Ramzi Baroud is not a conspirator. He's a journalist of record, a man of books, a teacher, a witness. His own family has been buried under rubble, and yet America hasn't mourned them, hasn't spoken of them. Instead, it chooses to hunt him, to turn his grief into accusation, his fidelity into crime. Some congressmen have joined this manhunt. Fuck them. Eager to please their Zionist patrons. Universities have been disciplined, their students silenced. The press, that great sentinel of truth, has abandoned him. Repeating only the charges while ignoring his suffering. This isn't democracy, it's servitude. The elements of law are absent. There is no actus reus, no mens rea, no casual link. There's only suspicion, all right? There's only the will to silence. And so the true purpose stands naked, to criminalize the Palestinian word, to punish a journalist for speaking the truth of Gaza, to make an example of him so that others will be afraid to write. But intimidation isn't justice. A trial without evidence isn't law. And silencing the witness won't erase the truth. All right? And then we've got more on here. That's Ramzi Baroud right there. All right, the guy who wrote this was Mohammed El Mokhtar Sidi Haiba, social political analyst, okay, and he wrote this to Palestine Chronicle about Ramzi. The American justicial system has a choice to lend its authority to propaganda, which is what it's going to do, or to defend the very principle that sustains that law, that guilt must be proven and not declared. To condemn him would be to condemn journalism itself. To acquit him is to restore some dignity to justice. The choice is clear. And the choice of what they're choosing to do is also clear, as the dissident has shown, that the Trump administration has now sanctioned Palestinian NGOs for documenting Israeli war crimes. So what do you think they're going to do to Ramzi Baroud?
Yep.
All right. Sanctions for exposing Israeli war crimes. That's what they're doing. All right. They're sanctioning Al-Haq, Al-Mizan Center for Human Rights, and the Palestinian Center for Human Rights as retaliation for their documentation of Israeli war crimes. I'm waiting for the Hin Rajam Foundation also to be targeted. All right. The Hin Rajam Foundation actually reports on Israeli soldiers in foreign countries to have them brought up on genocide charges. so that they can't travel anywhere in the world. And they're not allowed to vacation, not when you commit genocide. The sanctions announcement from Rubio states that the sanctions are placed because, quote, these entities have directly engaged in the efforts by the ICC to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute Israeli nationals without Israel's consent. Why do they need Israel's consent when they've committed war crimes? The announcement then goes on to blatantly admit that the U.S. and Israel are rogue states that don't adhere to international law, writing, this administration has been clear. The U.S. and Israel are not party to the Rome Statute. Therefore, we're not subject to the ICC's authority. We oppose the ICC's politicized agenda, which it isn't. They want to stop genocide, all right, and overreach and disregard for the sovereignty of the U.S. and that of our allies. Nonsense. The UN also has said the same thing. Francesca Albanese has said the same thing. Every organization has declared its genocide. Fuck Marco Narco Rubio. By the admission of Marco Rubio's own announcement, the Trump admin is sanctioning human rights organizations because they're collecting evidence of U.S.-backed Israeli war crimes, which the U.S. and Israel oppose because they're rogue states that refuse to adhere to the Rome Statute and international law. Make that sentence make sense. Because they're not part of it to begin with. So the latest sanctions are just the latest in a broader campaign by the Trump admin using sanctions to crack down on international organizations and figures for documenting Israeli war crimes. Again, Francesca Albanese, he put out a bombshell report showing all spheres of the American military-industrial complex, including Trump-connected companies like Palantir, were profiting off the genocide. The Trump admin placed sanctions on her. They're just going to sanction everybody in the end. So, fuck Israel for that. And fuck the United States government for that. Fuck Trump. Fuck Rubio. All right. In reality, her report had meticulously documented how American companies are directly complicit in Israeli war crimes, showing like that Lockheed Martin manufactured F-35s and F-16 fighter jets were integral to equipping Israel with the unprecedented aerial power to drop an estimated 85,000 tons of bombs, much of it unguided, to kill and injure more than 180,000 Palestinians. The Caterpillar supplied D9 bulldozers, documented as being used to carry out mass demolitions. Right? Palantir's AI providing automatic predictive policing technology, core defense infrastructure for rapid and scaled-up construction and deployment of military software, and of course its AI platform, which allows real-time battlefield data integration for automated decision-making. You mean murdering? Yes. All right. The announcement from Rubio about the sanctions on Francesca Albanese again explicitly said it was retaliation for her working with the ICC on the war crimes probe against Israel, and openly stated that the U.S. and Israel do not adhere to international law. Insane. A bought and paid for administration. Again, this is from the dissident, the 307.substack.com. These are his top donors while he was a senator. Trump also was bankrolled in large part by Israel lobbyists in 2024. We got Miriam Edelson, Paul Singer, etc., etc. Go check out the rest of this article. I'll drop the link in the description. But they're sanctioning organizations that are trying to support Palestinians, raise money for Palestinians, and they're sanctioning and trying to criminalize journalists and outlets that platform Palestinians. I'm guessing that the electronic intifada will be next, right behind Ramzi Baroud, because they definitely have, put journalists out there that Israel has later called Hamas. And therefore, the EI will then be charged with platforming Hamas. And anyone that interviews a Palestinian at some point will then be charged with being a terrorist as part of Hamas. It's crazy where this is going. And so we need to talk about it, because I don't see too many people talking about this or specifically focusing on this. They talk about it in a broader context of what's happening. But the way that individual organizations and people are being targeted First they came for the socialists and the trade union, and the famous poem about then they came for me and there was no one left to stand for me. It kind of feels like they're trying to come for everybody, so there's no one left to stand for us. So that's why we have to stand for them. All right. So that's more fuck Israel, but all about the censorship that's been happening and trying to silence Ramzi Baroud, trying to silence the Palestinian NGOs in the United States. And hopefully that is going to stop, but I don't see it stopping anytime soon. My worry is they're going to try to deport him to somewhere like Uganda, but we'll see. In the meantime, we're not monetized on YouTube. If you're able to and of means, please help us out by tipping our network in one of several different ways. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. You got paypal.me/Indie News Network. You got IndieNewsNow.com, IndieNewsNow.com. I stumbled there. INNnewsletter.com. We're going to be live in a half an hour there for boats smashing into other boats or so, probably 12:15. And then IndieMediaToday.com, where we are, again, live right now over on Substack. Speaking of coming to a Substack near you, you can hit it.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
I've been having some issues, obviously, with Substack lately. I've been complaining about their support or lack thereof. I had a situation where I couldn't, what they call a cross post between two publications. And every time I tried to raise this issue, as well as a couple of other technical issues, nothing was getting done. I would get this AI bot, and the minute that it became apparent that the bot couldn't resolve my issue, it offered to escalate my issue to a human engineer, but then gave me no guarantees or assurances as to whether it would be looked at, when it would be looked at, who would be looking at it, or if it would even be looked at. All right. So this is, again, I took out earlier in the week, that now there are two accounts that I have access to that can't cross post. It wasn't just my Indie at INN, but I also have access to the INN account, which is a separate publication, and I'm unable to cross post from there either. All right. This is so frustrating because every Saturday at noon, I cross post the INN newsletter to my Indie Media Today. Couldn't do that. Now, I was able to at the last minute, but the bot says, I understand your frustration with the cross-posting issue to your two accounts. I can't stand the apology from a bot. It's the most disingenuous thing
I
ever.
hear you. I feel you.
I'm so sorry for your issue.
We see
no,
you.
You're not. No, you're not. You're a fucking robot. You're a program. Are you unable to see the cross-post option? Or is there an error message? So I explain my issue, and I say, I want to speak to an actual human being right now and don't want to be sent into nowhere space and have the bot terminate the session. Got it. I've sent this conversation to our team of specialists. If this is a payment or urgent issue, you'll hear back from us within a few days. Otherwise, please note that due to incoming volume, we aren't able to guarantee a timely response, or even one at all. We're sorry. We're sorry. Yes, DeSantis Bloom, very robophobic, okay? So I then got a little upset, and I said, how can a company that built its reputation on serving writers and creators fail so badly? I have a genuine issue and would like an actual human being to speak with about it. That apparently is impossible anymore. A play in two acts is Act 1 when I tell the bot that I can't cross-post and it asks me to describe the issue that I've been repeatedly having. Act 2 when I tell the bot that I want to speak to an actual human, bot automatically drops the request into an imaginary queue that doesn't exist and summarily terminates the session. I can't even respond any further. Welcome to Substack customer support, where you're on your own on the tech side, and if that's not good enough, well, you can just sit and stew and pound sand. Thanks, fam. And that actually did prompt a response from somebody, maybe, or another bot, but I did get emailed, hello, sir, what's your issue? And I gave them a repeated once again, even though they could see clearly what my issue was in the bot. Then it was, well, we tried it on our side, and we couldn't replicate the issue. But then they They saw an issue and couldn't fix that. We're escalating that to our engineers. No longer are addressing that part. Now it's just about my issue that, now they're placing the blame on me and they're gaslighting me. But this one really upset me. I found this article, came across my desk on notes, and it says that your writing is not safe on Substack. Well, we've heard about accounts being terminated, all right? And we've heard about publications being terminated for low volume. But this person, Nuck, I've never heard of. This was written in June, right? That this isn't what I was planning to write for my next article, but in light of some recent events, I feel I should share my experience, and the article I should be working on right now will be out in a few weeks. Last week, my account was suspended for around 40 hours. They were lucky that they got it back. While this might not seem like a big deal, and mostly it isn't, it's the way Substack handles it that's so frustrating. Perhaps my experience had more to do with my status as a free newsletter. Maybe this won't apply to everyone, but if you have a free stack and have never been suspended, this is what you should expect if it ever happens to you. And if you use notes, it very well could. And that's the reason why I brought this, is because they lost their publication because of notes. When Substack suspends your account, not only do they immediately remove your publication from public view, they won't even bother to inform you that you've been suspended. Unless you're the type of person who signs in frequently, your publication could be offline for days before you even have a chance to submit an appeal. In the meantime, visitors will be greeted with a plain white screen with bold black text that says "Publication not available," with a link directing them to other publications. Users signed into the site won't even see that unless they go directly to your Substack via URL. Your account simply ceases to exist. So they log in. When you do eventually find out that your account was suspended, you can submit an appeal. But the thing is, the only confirmation that anything was actually submitted is an easy to miss notification in the top right corner of the screen. You don't get a ticket or any kind of confirmation email, nothing. They don't use a ticket system. So now, not only has all your work been wiped off the internet, you're not even sure the appeal did anything. I actually submitted my appeal twice because I wasn't sure if the first one worked, and that's when I finally noticed the notification in the corner of the screen that says, "We've removed your publication from public view due to a violation of Substack's spam and phishing policies. If you believe this was a mistake, you can submit an appeal to our standards and enforcement team here." All right, here's another one telling them that their account is currently suspended. Something you posted may have violated Substack's spam and phishing policy. If you believe it was a mistake, again, submit here. So, of course, they did that. Right? So this is what's interesting, is that, all right, if your account is currently suspended, something you posted may have violated that. All right, so guess what? You can't export your data. Now, reminding us that Substack advertises that you can always own your intellectual property, that what you write is yours, but you can't export it now because you've been suspended. After that, you just have to wait. You don't get any information other than that you should get a reply within the next 72 hours. Oh, and I guess that this should be obvious, but you can't use your account in any way outside of submitting an appeal. Literally nothing. They go so far as to hide all your subscribers from you. If you try to export them, you just get an error message telling you that your account's suspended. So much for no gatekeepers. About 40 hours after submitting my appeal, I finally got a reply. What did it say? It looks like your account was incorrectly flagged as spam. So none. I didn't break any rules, but Substack decided to treat me as if I did, and without any knowing one way or another. Nice. All right. So here's someone from, all right, there's the email about it. All right. I've corrected the issue and you should now be able to use it again. Why did it take that long? Seeing as they invited me to reach out, I did. I replied to this email asking a few questions about what happened and if they're doing anything to stop it from happening again. It's been a week now, no response. So I guess that's their response. Now, here's the thing. You might be thinking that this was some kind of bug or legit mistake, but I don't think it was. And I've had other people tell me that they don't think that it was a mistake when they got suspended either. I don't think Substack thinks that either. After my account was restored, I noticed that the entire previous week's worth of notifications had been deleted. So if you had notifications you were meaning to reply to, too bad, they're gone forever. What possible reason could Substack have to delete notifications of people contacting you? Because they know it's likely not about someone being spammed. It's to prevent you from looking at your replies to see who it was with the unhinged response to something you said. And what happened just prior to getting suspended? One of my recent comments had caused some oddly intense reactions. I'm assuming it was some offhand remark about how the image of inspo text someone posted didn't actually make sense. I can't be sure, but I was getting multiple salty replies about something like that in the days leading up to this. So I think I'd have a pretty good idea where to start looking if I was to try to figure out how this happened. That's likely the reason Substack deletes all your notifications for the previous week. If I was an actual spammer, I don't really see the logic in deleting notifications. Removing them seems to serve only one purpose: to protect the cry bullies by restricting your ability to see any of your recent replies. Permanently removing all replies is basically an admission that your suspension was the result of someone abusing the reporting system and not due to an actual mistake. So, this documenting a broken system that, as previously mentioned, I'm not sure it applies to bigger accounts, so an argument about the possible loss of income from being offline a few days because someone abused the system meant to help improve this site might not carry as much weight, but the way reporting is handled should be updated, regardless of who it impacts the most. If someone is suspected of being a spammer, what justification is there in removing their articles, which have no mechanism for being marked as spam outside of notes? If you're suddenly getting a bunch of spam complaints about an account and you're not willing or capable to look into it immediately, why not just limit their ability to comment and maybe hide their comments until you can confirm whether the spam complaints are legit or not? How can Substack justify removing a user's publication for the mere possibility of breaking a rule in notes? That's crazy. Substack is punishing innocent users not once, but twice. Once by completely removing their account from public view until they feel like reinstating it, which technically could be never. Shout out to Samara. I know that happened to him. And then, again, by deleting all their notifications and likes for the previous week. How is that in any way helping to prevent spam? How is that not simply giving a tool to the cry bullies among us? And why is Substack going out of their way to prevent the people abusing the reporting system in the first place? All great questions. Not to get sidetracked, but can we talk about how lame this entire situation is? This is a site for writers. Why are you here if you can't write your way out of a minor disagreement? Why are you running to the robot authorities? And why did making a false report seem like a better option than a well-worded retort? Well, anyway, right? Substack needs to address the issues within the reporting system. They need to address a lot of things. As it is now, it effectively invites abuse from a certain subset of hypersensitive and vindictive users while punishing users who did nothing wrong. Anyone using notes is leaving themselves open and vulnerable to having their publication taken down for however many days it takes for Substack to decide to reinstate it, if they so choose. If nothing else, I think making it known that abuse of the reporting system will result in some sort of punishment would at least reduce the possibility of any random user getting their publication taken offline because other users lack self-control. I'm also worried about a Zionist abuse of this, for sure, at some point. Mass reporting. Short of that, the only thing users can do to protect their writing from being taken down is not to use notes. And I'm guessing that's not the scenario Substack had in mind, but until they fix the reporting system, that's the only real solution beyond moving to a different platform, which I'm actually looking at doing seriously, looking at self-hosted WordPress. So all of these tracks from every playlist are on one long playlist. That's good. All right. So they're saying that they were targeted because one of their recent articles was getting Hollywood eyeballs on it. They might also delete your likes. I didn't think to check that while I was suspended, but checking now, there appears to be a gap in my list of likes, which is annoying if you happen to use likes as bookmarks. And for the people actually abusing the system, that's fucked up. All right. I guess he cut it off there. I don't know why. So subscribe and support this guy in frequency. I didn't really know this publication. I also have been talking to a guy named Mike who runs a publication, and he's been talking to Substack about like the possibility of transferring your publication to somebody else, another account, or what happens when you die, a legacy, and can you pass on? Can you leave it to a beneficiary? They can't transfer it to their own account ever. Weird. Substack did not build that in to allow for that to happen. Don't really understand how that is, but just beware that like they own your content, really. I mean, they tell you that you own your content, but if they shut down your account, it's gone. All your work gone. So back up frequently. I've talked about that in the past. Make sure your work is regularly backed up. I've actually been tracking all of my new subscribers, which they will email you to you, and unsubscribes on a separate spreadsheet, because I don't necessarily believe the numbers that Substack is telling me as far as the number of new subscribers every 30 days or whatever it is. I also believe that they're unsubscribing inactive email subscribers and pushing them over to the app only delivery. Fred Edward in chat had an issue a couple of months where he noticed that after July 4th, he wasn't getting any more emails from us, and that somehow his selection had been changed. I figured out in the app where to go to find that. And sure enough, somebody had changed him to app delivery only, meaning he didn't get the email notifications anymore, because unopened emails is actually costly for Substack. So they don't want to send emails that don't get open. It hurts their open rates for their newsletter owners, but it also hurts with the spam filter companies, that the lower your open rate, the more likely you are to be targeted into spam or pushed as a promotional email. So I'm going to do some kind of a follow-up on that at some point, but I wanted to make note that Substack's having several issues, and the deeper I go with it, the worse it seems to be. So my advice is use Substack as a driver toward your own publication. Self-host your articles, put a tease or a portion of it over at Substack with a link to read the full article over at your publication. Kevin Gostola does that very well with the Censor and his Kevin Gostola stuff and things. All right, so we're, again, not monetized by YouTube anymore. Substack, we're monetized over there, so you can support us over there. But the best ways to do that with the least amount of fees is at Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. You got paypal.me/Indie News Network. We've got indienewsnow.com. That's our website. And then we've got INNnewsletter.com and IndieMediaToday.com. Again, Substack hosted. So we're talking about moving away from Substack. I would prefer you to use one of the others, but if you want to subscribe there, have at it. Really appreciate it. Anywhere that you want to support our efforts here to spread the truth and to hold people accountable and to tell you what's going on with these platforms that nobody else wants to talk about, especially on live streams, because the algorithm doesn't really reward it. But I don't care about algorithms. I want to tell the story. Jamil Taib, welcome on Substack. Jamil likes all of our Substack posts. I really appreciate, he's a big supporter of the show, and we really appreciate people like Jamil. So I want to give him a shout out. All right. So there are some other articles in the lightning round that I wanted to share with everyone. I'm not going to read through them. I'm just going to show you the headlines, and I'll put the links in the Substack afterwards, so you can click and read them for yourself. This is a long article of which I agree with most of it. It's a very well researched article. There's a ton of receipts and footnotes here. But this fingers the Ford Foundation. We've talked about the Ford Foundation before as part of being part of the, what do you call the NGO complex, or the not-for-profit industrial complex, right? But they're actually a global, a fork-tongued global mafia front. And he's got receipts upon receipts here. Again, you may not like all the language that he uses. You may not like the perspective that he has. But in documenting exactly who they've aligned with and what they've supported and what they've funded, there's no doubt this guy has a lot of receipts that you should take a look at. Next, I want to watch this very quick video about a girl
up in a 24-hour Planet Fitness parking lot.
Waking up in a 24-hour fitness. Wait, hold on. Let me go back to the beginning here. And as Reef likes to say, action.
I live in my 2006 Honda Accord, and this is what it's like to wake up in a 24-hour Planet Fitness parking lot. I start by getting dressed, and then the longest part of my morning routine is always taking down all of my window coverings, but they are essential for sleeping in my car, so I do it anyways. Then I climb over into the driver's seat and take down my window coverings there. I actually already went into this Planet Fitness last night to take a shower, for all of you who say that I don't shower. So this morning I can go ahead and leave straight away and drive to Panera Bread. But first, the bathroom. Obviously, I used the restroom and washed my hands. I brushed my teeth in my car. I don't know, like, that's weird to show on camera. I don't know why y'all are asking to see that. Anyways, now it's time to drink my hot bean juice to wake up and get some computer work done. So I use this as an opportunity to charge some of my electronics. And here I'm actually editing a YouTube video, so if you haven't already, be sure to go subscribe over there. I live in my 2006 Honda Accord in this.
So that is by choice, but what she says is, somebody asked van life. She says van life used to be a choice, now it's survival. YouTube, TikTok, people filming their struggle just to make a few bucks while sleeping in their car. America turned into the Truman Show, and the rent is the villain. And then you got a lot of people that are like, you know, get a job, and this is the choice, and there's plenty of opportunity, all the bootlicker, capitalist bootlickers. But the point is that the cost... capitalism. Right? The cost of living is forcing people to make these choices. The lack of available affordable housing is forcing people to decide that it might be better to try to live out of their car and deal with the displacement and all the other things that you have to deal with not having an address, living out of a car with a P.O. box, and showering where you can, and grabbing internet where you can. Yes, Sean, the Who Man show, not the True Man show. It's really sad that people are resorting to this. All right, so I'll put that link in the description. Also, the Honest Broker, I like to call this guy Ted Joy. I like to call him the mayor of Substack. He's the #1 music subscribed on Substack. He writes about jazz, but he also writes about other stuff. And in this case, it matters to us. It matters to all of us, because this is about DMCA takedowns. And this guy, Rick Beto. Now, it's really kind of funny, because the day before Ted wrote this, Reef sent me a video about Rick Beto. And there's a video here about how the record label is trying to silence him because he does react videos, all right? And on a 42-second video on Olivia Rodrigo, he included 10 seconds of a song, but Universal Music Group still charged him with a copyright violation, although it certainly seems straightforward as fair use. He pushes back, successfully defends his fair use, rights, but he's got to now have like a full-time lawyer. He gets a ton of these every day.
He literally has to pay a full-time lawyer
to handle the endless stream of infringement claims. He's won repeatedly, but maybe that's what's getting the label so upset. We've successfully fought thousands of these now, he said. All right, so this is a really interesting article, and it affects every single live streamer and content creator that you know that uses any kind of copyrighted material, even for reaction purposes. And we're going to go be doing one of those next on boats smashing into other boats. So we certainly are worried about that. Now, The last thing I wanted to rant and rave about a little bit is about a guy that I've done a lot of advocating for on this show. And I got to be honest and I got to be fair. You know, we platformed Matt Taibbi a ton. Bracket News, advocated for his outlet, given them an Indie Media Award. But this shit cannot stand. I cannot stand by quietly, and I haven't been. I've been openly critical of Matt, of his unwillingness to address Gaza, and the few times he does, he tepidly says he doesn't want to address it because he's got a rabid Zionist following that he does not want to alienate and lose paid subscribers to. He can claim that it's anything else. It's audience capture, straight up. People claim, oh, you're jealous. I don't give a fuck. Look, I've been a big fan of this guy. The problem is that he's sold out on the independents. He's sold out on all the principles that he claimed to hold true. He's sold out on the Palestinian journalists who are being murdered by U.S. bombs and Israel, and silent on Israel, which, by the way, I said earlier, silence is complicity. He is absolutely 100% complicit in not amplifying every week that the United States is aiding and abetting Israel in murdering journalists in Palestine that are trying to report the truth. This truth teller, this protector of the truth, is showing who the fuck he is. Now, he got really excited.
Which a lot of people have argued that it was always what he was.
And some people feel that way, that he shit all over people who questioned 9/11. And he was wrong there as well. But Malcolm Gladwell admitted to, being bullied by the trans lobby and kind of recanted some of the stuff he talked about DEI. And Matt, of course, was excited to hear that because he had exposed Gladwell a couple of years ago, and they had a debate a couple of years ago. And again, it's all about his ego. So it's ironic that this happened in the same week that Gladwell admitted he wasn't packing anything down there. The set on Barry Weiss is visible from space, and that's why she's getting paid.
Okay. Who the fuck cares? Like,
right? So I said, Barry Weiss is a Netanyahu toady. Now she's going to go work for Israel's #1 supporter and CIA Larry Ellison's son, pushing her disgusting, genocidal mental gymnastics about Israel across a multitude of channels and platforms. Prepare to have it shoved down our throats at every possible turn. Now across all of CBS and Paramount. The worst people truly do fail upwards. This timeline sucks ass. I know, Matt, you don't claim to follow this closely, but Alan McLeod has been running laps around some people who claim to be about fighting and exposing censorship by the big platforms on social media. Alan had 3 weeks ago in here that Skydance was looking at buying the Free Press and making Barry ombudsman over CBS News. We already knew that. All right. And then, of course, you always have somebody that tries to step in and play Captain Savo. Israel are the fucking terrorists, period. But it didn't stop there, because I then remind people Barry is a genocidal lying cunt, and now so is Matt. Matt's an apologist for a genocidal lying cunt. He repeatedly spreads the debunked October 7th rape hoax, which got me a violation by Twitter. Thank you very much.
Twitter.
We all know what this is and who the Ellison family serves, and it ain't the American people. All right? So, yeah, this post may violate X's rules against hateful content. Taibbi was taking L's everywhere. Fuck Twitter's right. Taking L's everywhere thanks to that Netanyahu toady. He doesn't realize that he's mainstream now. He ignores Israel. He ignores Epstein. He ignores ICE raids. He brags about siding with Douglas Murray. By the way, that Malcolm Gladwell debate, it was Taibbi and Douglas Murray against Gladwell and some other asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, his podcast, Walter Kern, is also a MAGA Zionist. And oh yeah, he still goes on with Bill fucking Maher, also a Zionist. Is Fox News calling? Like, this guy practically has a Fox News show. Because someone actually said, I'm waiting for Taibbi on NBC or ABC primetime. If anything, it would be on CBS with Barry. Maybe he's shilling for a time slot.
Right.
All right. You may as well have a Fox News show. Somebody reminds me that in his description that he describes himself as the author of The Insane Clown President, I Can't Breathe, Spanking the Donkey, and Smells Like Dead Elephants. Those are some of his wonderful titles. Right? And then he's stepping all over his Zionist dick today. I said, you're bragging about siding with Douglas fucking Murray and exposed Zionist propagandists who got humiliated about it by Dave Smith, a certified moron. Yoink, Scoob. May want to sit this one out. All right. Barry Weiss, Douglas Murray, Walter Kurd, just surrounding yourself with murderous Israel simps. Your silence is complicity, Matt. Mask off. We all see it now. Your chat here. His chat on Substack has a collection of the most unhinged, genocide-denying, bloodthirsty, anti-Muslim bigots that push Rabbi Shmuley's bullshit Hasbara talking points. Pathetic mask-off moments in 24 hours, destroying decades of reputation, known as somebody who had integrity as an independent. All right, again, Matt trying to backtrack. All these people who think I'm a cheerleader for Israel are out of their minds. July 11th. All right. I oppose the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act because it affected you. I oppose the Trump Anti-Semitism Executive Order defining criticism of Israel as discriminatory. And I said, I don't think the
that's
U.S.
not enough. Bare minimum position.
All of these. All right. They shouldn't be sending money or weapons to Israel. Great. And I'm against the catch and deport practices for speech offenses. But that's not enough for the pro-Palestine crowd. No, it's not. Because they're literally murdering journalists and you're silent. Apparently, I'm also supposed to salute a range of other issues. And if I don't, I'm a genocide apologist. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
You'd rather annoy the fuck out of a possible supporter than allow for some level of ambiguity.
Which is the same bullshit you've been trying to fucking tout forever. You just don't want to be told what to do, and it shows. So every time it's like, oh, I talk about it, but I should be able to not talk about it if I want to. That's what your fucking childish ass has been doing.
I remind him that silence is complicity. This isn't just about how it affects censorship here, which is all he really cares about. Stop Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, happening here. Oppose Trump Anti-Semitism Executive Order, here. All right? Shouldn't be sending U.S. money. That's affecting the U.S. You selfish fucking prick. How about all the people that are getting murdered by U.S. money and bombs? You don't give a fuck about any of them. How about all the people in the UK getting arrested for supporting Palestine action? Doesn't give a fuck about them either. Fuck this guy. If you have
didn't
not,
give a fuck about anybody other than his own shit, which is exactly what he looked up in the Twitter files, all the shit that affected him.
And therefore,
like,
the answer is BDS. He's going to support this shit. He's not going to call it out. We don't subscribe to his paid publication anymore. He can fuck off. I was an annual paid subscriber to Racket News for 3 years. I canceled my subscription on July 12th. And it'll be good through the end of the year. I'll probably just start republishing his paid subscriber only articles just to fuck him over because he's a douchebag. But
don't even do that.
Well, it just hurts his revenue because people who might want to see it would have to pay to see it. Now they'll get it for free. That would be the only reason for doing it. Anyway, so that was Matt Taibbi being a douchebag and siding with Barry Weiss. And it's because they were in the Twitter files together, right? So they have kindred stuff there. And because Barry Weiss built a successful Substack publication, and maybe Matt wants private equity to eventually knock on his door and give him $100 million for Racket News. He's not doing that out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it for fucking money. He wants to get paid. And I think that he's bragging and spiking the football about Barry because he wants to have some of that come his way. Be like, guys, I've been playing ball and sacrificing my pro-Palestine audience to make sure that this was another outlet you might want to buy and roll into CBS News or maybe part of NBC for all we know. Fuck this guy is all I'm saying. I'm done with Matt Taibbi, and I hope most people are too. I understand if you don't want to be, but he's not your friend. And he's not a friend of the truth, and he's not a friend of anti-censorship or free speech. It's just when it directly affects him, which is like kind of like a Republican in a way. Like he can say he's not a classic Republican or a shitlib, you know, a corporate shitlib, which is why he gets invited to appear on corporate shitlib TV. So let's get to some real people now. People like Shanda. Now, our friend Shanda said she officially started round 2 irradiation to treat small cell lung tumors in both her femur bones and ribs today. She got 4 zaps to the ribs and to the left leg. She's really in pain. All right. They can't even start chemo until her insurance approves it. Can't believe how much the pain's increased. Thank you to those who have held us up. It's been over a year. So if you're able to, here is Shanda's GoFundMe. Please support her with a couple of bucks. Would really appreciate it.
Money, please.
Then we've also got the situation that's going on with Anthony Malecki's sister-in-law, Natalia. Natalia came to the U.S. with her daughter to pursue a better life, fleeing an abusive ex-husband who threatened to kill her. Her entire family's here, and now she's being abused by a fascist police state that's torturing her for the profits of the prison industrial complex, and now wants to separate her from her daughter, send her back to Ukraine, and put her daughter into foster care. Natalia has lived here legally for almost 10 years while working as a box truck driver and raising her daughter. She was, as we know, taken into ICE custody after a traffic stop over a registration that wasn't even expired. Now they're moving to separate her from her child by removing her from the U.S. This is serious. The family needs urgent help. While living here, she had applied for her green card. She was paying taxes and doing everything right. But this is what happens when Ohio sheriffs turn traffic stops into deportation pipelines for profit. All right, Descent in Bloom, who contributed to this stream tonight, just donated to her family's fundraiser, as have we. Please share this GoFundMe first and foremost so more people see it. And if you're able to donate even a little, it helps. And this is the GoFundMe. She's over $1,500. Anything that anybody can do to help, it really does make a big difference. And these had dried up for a couple of weeks. I know Natalie Williams, you know, friend of the show, friend of the network, big supporter of ours, also has been sharing this and trying to help our brother Anthony get the word out there. Cowboy Kitty. And then Keith McHenry. Food Not Bombs Keith McHenry. This is a story about the Taylor Street Navigation Center. So they've been doing homeless sweeps in San Jose. And these are like the tents that they're now offering people in a tent city like that. That if you refuse to discard your property and move into this hot camp, you get sent to jail for trespassing. They're prison camps. San Jose, California, happening right now. Keith McHenry. So, new tent site for San Jose's homeless faces criticism from advocates and residents. So this is a news report from NBC. Right, a homeless shelter designed to connect people to permanent housing will open on Taylor Street in San Jose. The shelter, which is the first of its kind in the Bay Area, all right, will provide each person with a tent and access to services. However, the site faces criticism from both advocates and local residents. It's going to be hotter than hell, literally, and the mayor thinks it's a great idea for the tents. I hope it actually helps, but at the same time, I wish it wasn't as close to the houses and families, all the NIMBYs. The new safe sleeping site is modeled after a similar initiative in San Diego. Of course, they've got 10-degree or 15-degree warmer climate. Residents there filed a federal lawsuit claiming the tents reached internal temperatures of over 100 degrees. Again, read this thing from Keith McHenry. So I'll put that link in the description. I talked earlier tonight about Indie News Now. This is the website that you would go to. That's got the news there. It also, again, has our live stream under the Watch Live. It also has access to our merch store. We just put a link up there. And then the Keep the News Free, which is where you would be able to hook us up with a Stripe link or click here or here to go to the merch store. So the merch store, we've now linked over to the newer merch store so you can get your goods there. I know Lisa Tyree, for example, she's ordered the sticker that was when people are occupied, resistance is justified, and that's now being shipped and on its way to her, from what Ryan told me.
Look at my shirt, little bitch.
Yeah, these are cool. These INN t-shirts are badass. So I would definitely recommend. $20. I mean, we're keeping the price as low as possible. So, all right, we're going to go to Boats, support independent media. Before we get out of here, support the independent media you want to see. Cash App, $, Indie News Network, code-v.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, IndieNewsNow.com, INNNewsletter.com. We're about to go live there for Boat Smashing and Other Boats, and IndieMediaToday.com, where we have been live for the last couple hours. Cynic, well, they want us living in a pod regardless. That's right. Owning nothing and being happy. Absolutely correct. If they want us living it all. Charlie Robinson says, you know, they your government, they hate you and they want to kill you. That's his favorite line. So yeah, we're going to do Boats. That was the dystopia times. Not really, but it kind of felt like that in a way. Just the weekly report on all the fucked up stuff that's happening out there in the world. But we got to report on this stuff because I just feel like so many people are tuning out to it because it's hard to listen to, but it's important to know and document what's being done to society, what's being done to people, and the people who are suffering and struggling as a result of it, and telling their stories, because not enough people are. So until next week, and we will be back next week, support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you all, and see you soon, everyone. Have a good night.
Mwah. Ciao, baby.
We are party.
No! We just fucking lost the stream! Again.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want?